Welcome, everyone. So excited to have you back here on the Cucina Aurora Kitchen Witchery podcast on another episode of Conversational Witchcraft. We are here with just the most fantastic. And I hope that you guys get to know her. She's so great. It's Misty Bell Stiers. She's an artist, a storyteller, a boss witch, you bet your ass she is, who has spent her career focused on leveraging her passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a little bit of magic to create systemic change at every level. As a creative director, podcast guest, speaker, and author, Misty has mastered using her unique perspective to help people find ways to truly connect with the world around them and the people in it. She's also the author of Witch Please, Finding Magic in Modern Times, which is a touching and thought-provoking account of how a woman explored a spectrum of religions, ancient and new, and ended up unexpectedly becoming a bona fide witch. Misty Bell, welcome.
Hey.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Okay, so let's see. How long ago did we meet? I mean,
I know exactly how long because it's the age of my daughter.
Right, because you were pregnant with her when we met. Yes,
so
yes.
14 years.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk about how old she is right now.
Oh,
but yeah.
Ew. 14 years? Okay,
so because she's 13 now. So yeah, 14.
Okay, so I remember like clear as day. I was at New York City Pagan Pride Day in Battery Park, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful couple. Okay, this is how fucking weird this is, okay? Usually I don't even remember what I'm wearing, but I remember what you were wearing. You were wearing a black and white striped, horizontal striped shirt with your big old preggy belly. And I think your hair was like, it was either bright pink or bright red at the time. And I was like, I don't know who these people are, but I was just drawn to you. And we just striked up a conversation. And I remember you looking at me going, what is this? What's going on here? Because you live in New York City and you just thought you wandered into another street fair, right? And I was like, oh, this is New York City Pagan Pride Day. And you were like, wait, what?
Time out.
What? And fast forward, and now you're like a witchy author, and you're like doing your own witch thing. Like, oh my freaking goodness. Wow. Was that so? A lot of times on this show, we talk about, those pivotal moments. Was that like, we're just jumping right into it. Was that a pivotal moment for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize that the Pagan Pride was that day. We were just happened to be walking, and I had actually wanted to go to the Pagan Pride the year, 2 years, more than that. I'm lying now. It's like a handful of years before that. And I had people coming to visit me, and I was like, it's Pagan Pride today. And they were like, no, thank you. I was like,
you're like, what is that?
I guess we're not doing this.
Right.
But meeting you was so pivotal. Like I can't even begin to tell you like how it's like a before and an after, because I think that up until that point I was a solitary practitioner.
Right.
I didn't know anybody else who practiced. Like I wasn't friends with them. I didn't see them. And as much as I could read books, and when I first started sort of trying to figure out if it was right for me, I had gone to like coven meetings. I had met people. I was the annoying one. I was like, what do you do? How do you do it? What's going on? Tell me more. Right. And, but then I met you, and I remember so clearly just being like, you did a workshop, and I was listening to your workshop, and I was like, she practices like I do. And it was suddenly like the whole world opened up, and I felt so at home, because suddenly I realized that like all the stuff I read and like all these like really intimidating things that I thought a witch had to be, right? And suddenly I was like, no, like here's this woman who's so warm and so welcoming and talks about food and caring for people and just living a kind life above all else. And I was like, holy free holies, like I found my people, right? Like suddenly I felt legitimized and I felt at home, and suddenly it was like if there were angels, they were singing behind me. Like I remember that moment and that day so clearly. And we go back every year now, and the first year I came back and I got to be part of it, which is crazy.
That's crazy, right? It's great. Like you came to all those years and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm teaching the workshop. Oh,
and I remember that morning I was like, please let me just meet one person that makes me feel the way that Dawn did that first time.
Oh no, thank you.
It's
I don't
absolutely
even,
true.
you're just filling my heart up. Like I can't even, oh geez. This is supposed to be a Misty Bell love fest.
Well, sorry. It's not how
I'm
I
supposed
play.
to be loving all over your amazingness. Thank you so much. I mean, you said a couple of things in there, the feeling of coming home when you find your people, I think is really important in terms of community. And so often, even within the pagan community, it's hard to find that. And also you touched on something about how you were reading by yourself and reading this and reading that. And it's a little intimidating because you're like, oh, this is what in this world, oh, this is what a witch has to be, or this is what a witch has to do. And it's funny because even in my own journey, I'm very intimidated by some of that stuff. I'm not an occultist. I'm not a psychic. I'm not, I do some of that work, right? I mean, we do some of that work, but really my practice is here now, connecting with earth, connecting with the food, connecting with people. It's that connectivity. That's kind of where I find myself closest to spirit. And oftentimes I have felt that is considered a lower magic, right? And so when you meet someone who validates you, right? When you meet someone who holds a mirror and says, everything you see in me that's good, I am simply reflecting what I see in you.
Right.
It is transformative. It is transformative. And I'm honored and flattered that that's something that I did for you unknowingly, and that you continue to do for me. Like I'm watching you grow and flourish. And I remember, and then like a couple of years ago, I happened to be at a pagan pride day here in Massachusetts on a whim. I wasn't working. I wasn't teaching. I was like incognito. I was like
in
sunglasses
in the, like, how often does that happen for you?
I haven't had a day off, and my husband was playing a show there. He was playing music, and I walk in, and lo and behold, there's Misty Bell with the beautiful family and your book. And I was like, shut the front door. Come on. I just absolutely amazing. And then when you said that was 14 years ago, and then how is that even? So how do you go, Misty, from, and this is really the story of your book, right? Like, so without giving away so much of your book, which really is your journey into finding the path and what that path means to you, right? How do you go from going to this pagan pride day 14 years ago to being a pagan author and creating this brand and persona around your book? What are those steps for people that are listening and going, it'll never be me? Right. What does that look like? What was that look like for you?
I think having that validation moment was so important because I think suddenly I felt legitimized. And I felt like I'm not the only one. And here I was walking through my life thinking that I was an only, or I was strange, or I was odd, or I didn't belong, which is the worst.
New York City,
worst,
right? Like
right? Because we all move here because none of us belong.
Correct. Right, exactly.
And but my spirituality was so important to me. Like it has always been. Like I was raised Catholic. When I was Catholic, it was always been a pillar of my life. And I found this new path that fed my soul. And I found that I felt like I was an outsider. Like I wasn't doing it right somehow. Like it was fulfilling me, but I was not like, I was cheating somehow. And then I realized that, like if I feel that way, I bet there's a lot of other people that are like, I pass every day that feel the same way. And what can I, like, how many people, like, it was sort of like a challenge. I had this interaction with you. And then in my mind, I was like, okay, how many people can I interact with? How many people can I intersect with and have them feel like I did that day? Like what do I need to do to keep doing that? And really at the end of the day, it just meant that I was starting to become really way more open about my practice and my beliefs
Yes.
and what I did and who I was. And, before I kept it really close. Like I kept
Yeah.
it really close.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just like was like, well, what the fuck, right? Like,
Do you ever
if you want to know
feel
who I am, I'm a witch.
right? And what does that mean for you? Because it means
Right.
something different for
For
everyone.
everybody.
I will use the word witch and I'll use the term kitchen witch to define myself because it's very easy for people to
It's
understand.
shorthand, right?
Shorthand, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for people to understand what that is. But when I get into it, I go, no, I'm pagan, right? Because I pull
Right.
from all these different pantheons. I do all these different practices. Yogic practice and yogic philosophy is so important to my kitchen witchery, my cooking, and like all those things, so important. But I want to go back to something you said about growing up Catholic and then the parallel between that and feeling like you don't belong or feeling like you're doing something wrong on the pagan path. That
Right.
really struck a chord with me because I grew up in a very traditional Italian Catholic family. And in those environments, we're sort of bred, aren't we bred to feel
Well,
like there's
the default is you're doing something wrong.
correct, but you're always doing right. It's like, oh, you're breathing. You're doing that wrong.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, you're a girl. Oh, well, right off the bat, you're wrong
Right.
because you have a vagina. Or you are living as a woman, whatever it is, you are wrong. So I feel like this sort of programmed into our brains. And I think so many people that are on the pagan path have similar upbringings. Do you think that could have been that feeling of not belonging or that feeling of doing it wrong? Do you think that could
Oh,
have been
absolutely.
left
Absolutely.
over?
Absolutely. And let me be clear, like when I was Catholic, I was so empowered and so happy
Mm.
and felt like that was it
True
for me.
believer, true believer.
Like I was like the camp
Wow.
counselor. I was on the state board for the youth organization. Like I did all the things. I was like in, like
Right.
I was committed. And then I had a break. I had a day where suddenly I had to decide if what I had always been told and what I was being told was really true.
Mm.
And I think that it's very easy for us to go through our lives and never ask ourselves why.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a moment where I was forced to. And that's when I was like, oh man, like this can't be it for me. This is not gonna fit me.
Right.
And I think that it's like anything, right? Like when you spend enough time with a person or in a practice or whatever that is, you internalize pieces of that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still like, it's been this is like, I'm gonna do the math right now. It's been 27 years since I was Catholic.
Wow.
And I am to this day, like it's my default sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Like you default to the guilt. Like I can literally say every prayer,
Oh yeah.
like if you see something on TV where there's like a scene in a church or something, I'm like, I believe in the God, I believe in one,
Right. I can recite the entire mass.
right? The whole
Yeah.
thing, right? I mean, and it's funny because similarly, I was like entrenched, right? I taught kids music. I was in 3 different choirs as the folk group, the rock group, the choir
Right.
group. I was, participating in this, going on Catholic retreats as a 16
Yep.
year old, like pledging virginity kind of stuff, like
Right.
crazy, like, right. And all the while, I always felt like I was lying, like to myself. I always kind of felt like where you might have been like really in it and like trying so hard to make it work.
Right.
I always felt like
Something wasn't quite right.
yeah, like this,
Yeah.
I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to keep doing the thing because if I do the thing, then eventually I'm going to fit into this.
Right. It'll feel different.
It'll
It's
feel
like
different.
practicing. Right.
Right. I'll fit in. I'll make it work. And I remember being like, it doesn't fit me. Like you're putting on someone else's clothes. It just didn't fit me. And then like you finding the path, not really choosing it, going, oh, wow, this makes sense.
Right.
Oh, this fits. This is the right size. This is the right shape. Here are the pants I was looking for this whole time.
Yeah.
Like just putting on something that was made for you versus forcing yourself into someone else's shape.
Right.
I apologize. I have a kitten and
I love it.
can you hear him?
I can a little bit. It's adorable.
That's Ollivander. And this morning he was like right here and like rubbing up against me, but he's trying to get Justin's attention. I apologize. See, now
have to apologize.
That's the kind of thing that my producer Corey is going to be like, God damn it, don't stop talking about the cat.
Stop.
and he's going to be like, I'm going to have to cut out this whole bit. Okay. So no, but like I think so many of us carry around that whatever it was we were brought up with, and specifically the Catholic version of things. I remember having a conversation with a friend who is a pagan teacher, and I can't remember exactly what was said, but I was like, oh, well, you mean da 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 da. And he's like, that's the Catholic interpretation of what I'm trying to tell you about witchcraft. And I was like,
right.
Oh,
and you're like,
no, oh no, I brought, there's no guilt in the craft. Okay. Thanks very much. Like, I don't feel, and you have to sort of reprogram that.
Yeah.
How is your reprogram? How has that happened? And then how have you been able to reprogram yourself and not inadvertently programmed your children to have that kind of guilt?
I mean, oh my Lord.
Right.
I don't know if I actually have reprogrammed myself. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I can say I haven't. Like, I think that it's like the memory of someone I knew a long time ago, right? Like, I just carry it with me, and I know it's there, and I see it, and sometimes it sort of conflicts with like my present, and I have to recognize when that happens. But I'm super careful with the kids. And it's funny because I like to say that I've just I was a solitary practitioner, and then I just created my own coven. But I like, we celebrate all of the holidays together. They know what I believe. They know why I make certain choices. They know what's important to me. It's the reason I wrote the book, honestly, is so that they would have all of that. But I'm not raising them pagan, in the sense that, like, I'm not saying this is what you believe. And I think that was so important to me. And I think because I'm so conscious of wanting to give them the space to learn about everything and find something that makes them happy, it makes me more conscious of those moments when I think my past kind of comes into play. That being said, it wasn't until Mira was so much older than she should have been, like 8 or 9. And I realized that we had taught her so much about all the other religions. Like, we had gone to Istanbul, and we had gone into the Blue Mosque, and we had spent like all of the 6 months before we go somewhere, we always teach them about the culture and the myths and legends of like that place.
Yeah.
So we had done, like, we travel a ton. So we had done all of these religions, and we were teaching them about, like, what does it mean to be Islamic? And we went during Ramadan, and it was just beautiful.
Amazing.
And so we were like teaching about all these things. And then I realized we were watching Fantasia 2000, and there's this scene of like Noah's Ark with Donald Duck. And, and she's like, I don't get this. Like, what is this story? And I had this moment where I was like, holy fuck, I've taught you about everything but Christianity. Like,
wow.
I had never sat down with her and been like, they're a group of people who believe in these things. She had gotten bits and pieces of it.
Right, because friends at school and Christmas and yeah.
And so I essentially like sat down with her that afternoon and like drank history of the Bible. And it was just like, so we'll start here and then work our way forward. And it was just like, I didn't realize how I felt like I was protecting her. And I think it's because when I didn't have that feeling that things were wrong until they were wrong. And I felt like, how did I deceive myself for so long? And it was I think part of me was so scared of that moment for her that I was like, you can learn about everything else, but this over here is fine. This over here is fine. We don't need to worry about that.
Well, when you've had such a rough experience with something, whether it's a faith, a person, a job, whatever it is, right? If you fell off a horse when you were a kid, you would never let your kids go horseback riding, right? Like you would be like, no, fuck no, you're not doing that. I got hurt. You're not going. So, I mean, that makes sense. You sort of, you steer them, right? I mean, I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak to what it's like to be a mother in that way. But you're steering those kids to have understanding and knowledge. And I think it's beautiful that you're not like, this is what we believe, I feel like you're doing maybe what you always wished was done for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in our house, it's like people first. It's,
Mm.
you know, we talk all the time about like a good example is we have a rule in our house that you can use whatever word you want as long as you respect your audience. And I can't think of a better word because I don't want sloppy vocabulary. And if you use a word and I can think of a better word, you owe me $1. And the only words we're not allowed to say are words that are like deprecating
Racist.
people.
Yeah.
Like you're not allowed to say someone's stupid or dumb. You're not allowed to attack a person and speak poorly of them.
Right.
You can say everything else. Like I don't care. Sometimes those 4-letter words are the exact right words.
Right. Maybe
and
the only thing you can say is shit.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's okay. Like that's
Yeah.
okay if you understand where you are and like who you're dealing with. You know, it's just you have to like your job is to be a force of light in the world. And whatever spirituality or path that you find that feeds that in a healthy way, I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I just want you to bring light. And that's a conscious decision. And so we talk to them a lot about all of the things. And hopefully they'll reach a point in their life someday where like maybe they will decide to be pagan, or you know, maybe they'll decide something else and I'll get to learn all about a religion I never heard of. Right.
Maybe
but
they'll just be incredible, empathetic human beings
right.
that aren't going to add to the shitstorm of the world. Right. Maybe
Right.
they're just going to be, maybe you are doing everything right and you're raising amazing humans.
Maybe.
Like if everyone in the world could raise amazing humans, you need to, that's your next
Right.
book has to be about how to be an awesome parent. Cause fuck yeah, woman. Like
that feels like such a speaking of imposter syndrome, but like,
yeah.
But I do think that, you know, it's this weird thing where you just kind of are constantly like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? And, you know, when you were saying like, if you fall off a horse and you get hurt, like you don't want your kids to ride the horse. And hilariously, like 6 years ago, I fell off a horse and got really hurt. And,
Oh, wow.
And it was life-changing. And I was like, when you said that, I was like, would I let them ride the horse? And immediately I was like, I would want them to face my fear. I wouldn't want my fear
To hold them back.
to keep them from doing something that they might love.
Right.
And I think
that's what
like
makes you a great
all
parent.
of
And that's why
it,
I don't
right?
have children. Like I'd be like, fuck no, you're not doing that. Shit. Or I'd be like, I fell off. You go ahead and try it. Oh, you hurt yourself. Told you like that. I would be the worst. I would be the absolute worst. That's why you need to write a book about how to be a great mom. So there's something you just said that I kind of want to unpack a little bit. You said, I don't care what you do. I just want you to be a light in the world, right? I don't care what you believe in. Just go out and be a light. That to me speaks of someone who's seen a lot of darkness and who maybe had a hard time getting out of the darkness to become that light. And like you said, it's a conscious choice all the time, which is very hard to do. It is very hard to choose to be light. It is hard to choose to be joyful or full of gratitude. Those people who can do it without thinking, I don't think they exist. I think everyone, you know, if that's the path that you're choosing, is hard fucking work all the time. Was there something in the past that was a dark moment for you where you had to really call on that well of light that sort of made you decide this is who you want to be?
I mean, I think
too much, too heavy.
No, it's not too heavy. It's a big question. Like I have to stop and think about it because my instinct is to say that like I sit with the darkness constantly. Like I fight like depression and anxiety and on the daily, right? And I failed. I lose that fight a lot. And
thank you for being open and honest about that.
I mean, I think we have to.
Yep. You have to talk about it to like you said, let people know. Like we all deal with that, right? You're over here, this bubbly, amazing human being. And guess what? Sometimes putting your pants on is all you can do.
It's if we're lucky. There's no guarantee I have pants on right now. So
why do you think I like doing podcasts?
But I mean, I do think that like, I think that when that experience is inside of you all the time. The fact that it becomes a conscious choice. And it doesn't mean that I'm good at choosing that all the time. But what it does mean is that I feel like I'm uber aware of how hard it is for everybody else too. And I don't even think that there's like a moment. I think it's a series of moments that happened where I was like, like sort of life just pushed me and was like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, you know, you stand on that precipice and you're like, okay, I'm going to jump and fall, or I'm going to jump and fly. And like,
either way, you have to jump.
Either way, you have to jump. And
you don't have a choice, right?
And I think it's, you know, I think it's a series of being forced to make that decision. And then I think I finally got to a point in my life, and you know, and I could tell you specific moments. Like I had a friend commit suicide when I was high school, and that was the break in my life of like before and after Catholicism. Yeah. And you know, I had another friend.
You write about that in the book.
Yeah,
I remember that.
And it, you know, and there's been moments, and when I had my accident, right? Speaking of like your past, like rolling over you, like, you know, I remember sitting in the hospital. I was in the hospital for weeks on end, and having that moment of, what did I do? What did I do to deserve this?
Oof.
Where did I fail?
That's so Catholic, right? What did I do to deserve this? I must be being punished. I'm being punished for something, right? And then you go back to, I can remember going back to like these Catholic, that guilt element, and thinking, not to Catholic bash, if you're a happy Catholic and it works for you, that's awesome. But those moments of, you know, that guilt coming in and going at the same time going, but hey, it doesn't make sense, because isn't everybody talking about this God that they keep talking about is forgiving and loving and made you just merciful, the way you are, and you know, merciful, and everyone's got free will and made you just the way you are. So if you made me just the way I am, then you love me just the way I am. So how am I being punished for being me? Right. So when
that's my only choice is to be the person you made me.
Right. So when you're sitting in that dark place, going back to those thoughts, why am I being punished? Wow. What a moment you're having there, being injured and racking your brain that there's something punishing you.
And I remember it was a night that was my absolute worst. And my husband we were in Montana. My husband had to fly home to New York, back to his job, to try to find us a place to live, because we live in a 5th floor walk up. So like, it wasn't a choice. I couldn't go home. And my kids were, for the first time, not with me in their lives. I had only been away from Mira for like 12 hours when I was giving birth to Wiley, and that was it. Like, I had been with them the entire time, and they were an hour and a half away, and I was by myself in a place where I knew no one. And I remember like sitting in the room, and they were like laying in the room, and there was a long window, and I looked outside, and that it was grief. It was just absolute, why would this happen to me? Like, what did I do? And that, like, sort of trying to take stock, right? Like, I made this decision. And something inside me was like, no, you don't no one deserves this.
No.
Like, I had one of my friends during that time, I remember she wrote me a card, and she said, you know, what would you say to someone else in this place? And I was like, that you don't deserve this. This is just another bump in the road. And I think at that point in time, I reached a crossroads where I could have gone down this is part of a greater plan, and I need help, and I'm going to like fall back on what I know best. And what I know best is, you know, praying to whatever God exists to like get me through this.
Right.
And I remember making the conscious choice and being like, no, like, I am Misty Bell Stiers, and the power of the universe is inside of me.
Yes.
And that means I can get through this.
Right.
I'm going to cry talking about it, but I remember it was such a moment for me when I was like, no, like, I will not do this. I will not let this darkness come over me. I will not go backwards in my path. Like, I've been saying that I am this powerful human being and that I have stardust in my bones, and for fuck's sake, like, that's what's going to get me through this.
And here
And it
you
wasn't
are
easy, but like
proving it to yourself. Right.
And not,
and again, sometimes it's just a matter of choosing that, right?
Yeah.
And saying, I choose to see that in myself. Right. I choose to believe all the bullshit I'm always talking. Right?
Exactly. Because it's so much easier to say.
So easy to say. Oh, so easy to say. And it's so easy to say it about somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'll tell you all the things. Like, I will make you feel like the power of the sun is in your hand. Like, and it's so much harder to say it to yourself. And that's not to say that I feel like that all the time. Like, I remember that moment because I felt like it in that moment. And it's not something I carry with me constantly. Like, it's something that I have to, like, I talk to people about finding their magic. And that's what I mean is, like, have that moment where you take a deep breath and you just remind yourself who you are. You know, like, straighten your crown.
Yeah. Straighten your crown. I remember a friend long ago, I was having a really bad moment and I was like getting upset. And I was crying and she looks at me, she goes, excuse me, where's your power? And she points, she's like, you left it over there. You go stand in it. And I was like, okay.
It's a really good friend.
Gonna go stand in my power now. You know, right? Like you're, and I think we do forget, listen, we are the witches. We are the wise women. We are so much the connective tissue in our families and in our friend groups and all those sort of things. I love the phrase that you said, I have stardust in my bones. We do, don't we? We are children of the goddess. We are children of the God. We are children of the earth, right? We're still fucking human. And guess what? Life sucks. Okay? Life sucks. And right now in the world, it sucks a lot.
It sucks hard. Yeah.
It sucks so hard. I think that's one of the things that through COVID has been so exhausting is every day you're pulling yourself out of that and you're going, no, I can do it. No, I'm magic. No, I'm in my power. I'm in my, you know, and that's tiring and that's exhausting.
Too.
And in that same breath as we're having this conversation, if you're struggling with that sort of thing and mental health stuff, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay to not be okay. But as we're talking about it in terms of the pagan path and finding your craft, it is a constant practice, a constant evolution, and a constant affirmation of self. It's not all about reading tarot cards and, you know, dancing naked under the full moon. It is so much more about who you see yourself as and how you walk through the world. And that's one of the things I really love about your book specifically. Excuse me. One of the things I love about your book specifically is how you're not trying to teach someone how to create this thing or read that thing, or, you know, your teaching is sharing your journey and your experience, which is so unique to you. And yet at the same time, completely universal. There are so many people that really identify with your journey and what you've been through and, you know, how you have found this path and how you've made this path work for you. So on that note, we're going to take like a 2-second break. We're going to hear from our super fab sponsors and we'll be right back with Misty Bell. But we don't actually take a break. I put on my radio voice.
It was nice. I like the radio voice.
Thank you. And then we're back. No. Okay. So, and then unless you need a drink, you just sip.
No, I'm good. I drank a glass of water before I came. I went to the bath. It was like I was going on a road trip.
Because if you need to tinkle, now's the time.
I'm in it. I'm committed.
Okay. Committed. Okay. So here we go. We are back with the amazing Misty Bell Stiers. She's incredible. She's telling us about her journey into witchcraft out of dark places, right? I mean, we've all been there. How have you managed to continue to practice? Because you've always said you're much more of a solitary practitioner. Yeah. But imagine as we're talking about these in the dark spaces and walking through the world in light, which is so fucking hard to do. How has it been for you through the pandemic? And especially maintaining a certain level of practice where you feel comfortable?
I think that for a long time in the pandemic, I just was so focused on keeping things going
Yeah.
that I had this really strange sort of delay in my reaction to it. So
Hmm.
my career was kind of all over the place. I was furloughed for a while, so I got to be home with my kids, which is
Mm,
amazing. And my kids
yeah.
were home. We live in a really small apartment, so all four of us were on calls all the time, and we don't have four rooms, so someone was always in the bathroom on some sort of call. And so like it just like I was just like we just have to keep going. Like we have to make sure that the kids are in school, and then I'm at work, or that I'm finding the job I want, or whatever it was. And honestly, I don't think it really hit me until we got the kids out of school, like out of the like last summer.
Mm.
And suddenly this summer was really hard for me, and I couldn't put a finger on it. And then when the kids went back to school this fall, they actually went back into the building, and I had 2 weeks where I was a mess.
Absolutely.
And I think that what it was is that suddenly, like, all of the stress and all of the stuff that was happening during the pandemic hit me at the same time. All of my fear hit me with the kids being like
Mm.
back out in the world.
It's
And
fucking terrifying.
it's horrifying.
It's horrifying. And you're in a place where most people are vaccinated. Like,
Right. I'm so lucky. I'm
and it's
so lucky.
and it's still fucking terrifying.
And
Okay.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And I think that actually my practice was stronger during the pandemic because I had the space to think about it.
Mm.
I think that I was suddenly, I was making up recipes and figuring out things to do. I was reading your book and making recipes out of your
Oh,
book.
thank
I
you.
was I was able to, like, I had the space to breathe, to do
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. I started painting again. Like, I started being able to fill my cup in a way that I wasn't able to do before because I was so frantically running through my life.
Mm.
And I think that when real life started to come back is when I sort of panicked and was like, oh, this is not real. Like, it was scary when it was at its worst, but I I am so insular. Like, I had my family in this little tiny
Yep.
space.
Yep.
And I was okay because I had them close and they were okay. We were so lucky because we got through up until now, knock on wood, with no one getting sick.
Yeah.
And so as long as they were okay, as long as they were close and okay, then I was going to be okay. And so I just kind of got to be like the mom I wanted to be for a while. And then it all fell apart when suddenly it was like, oh, we have to, oh, this is ending.
Yeah.
This is okay. This
Yeah.
is not okay with that.
Didn't you feel like I feel so much like COVID taught me what was working and what wasn't working.
Yeah,
What I
absolutely.
was doing in my professional life that was maybe making my spiritual life sick.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that survival mode, for me personally, I felt like everybody else was getting into kitchen witchery. And I
Right.
was over here going, I can't even think about anything, like I swear to God, for the first couple of months of COVID, I think I ate frozen chicken nuggets like 3 times a week because it's all I had the capacity to do.
Right.
And it's so important that when we talk about witchcraft and we talk about spiritual health, that we understand that it is so connected to emotional and mental health.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And that it is part of the process of your wellness, right? Like you were talking about before, going into those dark places within yourself and using the practice to pull yourself out of it, the principles of what you believe in to pull yourself out, which is kind of what spirituality is there for, right? I mean, like,
Right.
right.
It exists for a reason.
Right. Exactly. It's to give you a sense of something larger than yourself, to give you a sense of purpose, to let you know in your spirit, you are connected to something bigger and people and everything. I love to hear that you actually fell into more of a comfortable practice because so many people did not. Can you give an example of something that maybe you did as a family during that time or that you did as a solitary practitioner during that time where, maybe a ritual you created or something that really felt connective to you at that time that helped you through it?
This is so bizarre. We started making candles.
That's not bizarre at all. It's so witchy.
I know, isn't it though?
It's so witchy.
I started collecting jars because
just now, like you've never collected jars before?
I never collect, not in the obsessive way that I have started to do it now.
Oh, I don't know anybody like that.
I'm sure you don't. And so I had all these jars and I was like, it'd be great is if we could make candles for the holidays and think about like what the meanings were and make them smell like what we want, where we want to be. And I think it was like one of those crafts that I was like, we would never do it because there is not enough time and it's a big mess and we don't have space. And it was like, fuck it, like we don't have anything else to do. And so we did. And we actually just made them for Samhain again. And we made them for solstice, and it's been something that's been really fun because you can talk to the kids about like, what does this mean to you? And what does that smell like? Like, and we, like when we did the one for Samhain just recently, it was dirt and fire and night sky. And I got to talk to them about like, what does that mean? Like, why do you choose this? And this is what we're thinking about. And this is how we celebrate. And there's something so magical about, I use the word magical, about, about lighting the candle and being like present in that.
Yeah.
And getting to have that moment where you think about how it smells and you get to talk about how it was made. And I don't think I would have otherwise been so into it, but it opened up like a place for me and the kids to like really connect with something we can make with our hands.
Well, it's you literally created ritual, you created talisman, you created fire that you can light through the night on for example for Samhain. So and like on the psychological side of things, like you're bonding with the kids, you're doing a craft, you're keeping things busy. So it's everything. I'm telling you, the next book has to be like a pagan parenting book because it's brilliant how you've created that ritual with the kids to make something to celebrate that is something that they can do. And that, like you said, why are you choosing this? Like that understanding these little humans,
right?
Because I think kids are often thought as if just, you're kids, but they're individuals, they're human beings, and they're
small
constantly people, developing their personalities, their likes, their dislikes, their spiritual practices, their beliefs, their beliefs about themselves. You got to write a book about this. I'm just saying. I and again, it's not a parent. It's so needed.
I feel like the pandemic, it's scary and as ridiculous as it is, and I make it sound like it's over. It's not over.
Totally not over. Still in the middle of it.
I'm still there. It's still there. But what I do think,
like, am I crazy? It's still happening, right?
It's still happening.
Thank you.
Right out there, and it's very much still happening. I don't know why the word pandemic is happening.
Don't understand.
But I will say that I had a really busy job, and that dropped away during the pandemic, and suddenly I was able to take a step back and breathe in a way that I hadn't been able to in previous years. And I think that what that did was let me bring the practice closer to me and say, okay, I need to be living my life with intention, and I need to not be living it reactively. And that means I need to be more present. And I'm still working on that. But I think that the gift of the chaos was that I got a moment to be like, I'm not living the way I want to live. What are the changes I need to make that are going to not be like, what's the new normal? They're just going to be, this is how I want to live my life. And I'm never going to get this chance again.
Yes.
Like, stop everything. And
sticking with going, okay, those old habits didn't work. These new habits, I'm really happy. Right. In myself, in my practice, this is what's working for me spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Back to is not something that listen, I don't think anybody should be talking about going back. Okay.
No.
The future is not behind us. It's in front of us.
Right.
Right. And nothing, you can't undo something that happened yesterday. When it's done, and we learn and we grow and we move forward. If you don't learn, grow, and move forward, you stagnate or you die. That's just the way of nature. Right. Or you become twisted and unhealthy and then you die. So again, like thinking about trees and thinking about the natural world, you either grow and become stronger and adapt, or you don't. And I think that's true of our spiritual selves as well. And what we have learned through the pandemic about ourselves, about our communities, about our spiritual practice, what works, what doesn't work, what we want.
Right.
All of that is to be taken into account as we move forward. So as we talk about moving forward, do you have any new projects you're working on? Is there anything, any books in the works, any classes you're putting together in the works, any big travel plans where you plan on, going on more spiritual pilgrimages to bolster your spiritual self? Tell.
Oh, I have been doing a lot. My current job is about inclusivity and equity, and I have hit this beautiful intersection of my spiritual life and my professional life in a weird way.
Amazing.
Which is really fulfilling. And so I've been writing a lot about the idea of unlearning. And the idea that growing and moving forward is as much about letting go as it is about reaching forward. And that letting go doesn't mean saying goodbye. Like you can let go of something and you can release its power over you. It doesn't mean that you have to put it away in a box and never acknowledge it and not carry it. It's there's something about acknowledging who you are or what you carry and saying, this doesn't serve me anymore. And I have so many conversations at work about that, as far as, what is my experience and how does my experience color the way I walk through the world? And how does that affect how I impact other people's experiences? And I think that there's this idea of taking a breath and just being like, right now, this is who I choose to be. And I'm going to acknowledge that I am coming from a very specific place that has made me who I am. But I want to move forward to be something different. And so it's a lot of knocking around my brain. There's something about that I really love. And also the idea that asking for help is a spiritual practice,
Wow. That lightning bolt moment, right?
Right. Like the idea that when you need help and you're willing to ask for help, when you're willing to reach outside of you, whether that means that you draw on the power that is inside of you, or it means that you ask literally for someone to help you, it's an act of faith. Like it's the belief that there is something greater that can help you get to where you need to go.
Whether it is an actual person, your own spirit, a guide, a God, a nature spirit, whatever it is, making yourself vulnerable to say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm scared. I need help. I think that's such a powerful statement, Misty. Like on all levels, it's not just spiritual. It's we are everything. We are spirit. We are emotion. We are body. Right. We are all these things. So, and we're just still human beings, right? I think that is something that in my own practice and my own wellness journey has been so important in my learning. And I never really equated it to being a spiritual practice or a spiritual manifestation, if you will.
Yeah.
That's a lightning bolt moment for me, for sure.
I think we equate it so often with weakness and ignorance.
Fuck that.
And failure.
Yeah.
And it's not. Like,
no,
it's the opposite of all of those things. And I think that for me, I had to just I reached a point where I was like, it's okay for me to admit I don't know.
Right.
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 I do that with my kids all the time. I don't know. And
Right.
and I was so concentrating on wanting them to understand that it was okay that they didn't know things. And then I got into a job where my whole, like, one of the main things that I do is encourage people to be wrong, that it's safe to fail. And the more I thought about that, I was like, I don't want people to think of it as failure. I want them to think of it as growing stronger and having faith and belief that there's another side.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't ask for help if you don't believe that it's not possible to get it.
Or you don't believe you're worthy of it.
Right.
Right. Or you think that if you do fail, quote unquote fail, that you won't be worthy of
Right.
of help or something. And that ties right back to what we were talking about in the very beginning of this conversation, what we're programmed to believe from birth. And not necessarily just about what spiritual practices are forced upon us as children, but what mental stuff is put on us, what we hear, what we overhear from caregivers or parents, all that stuff. It's intertwined, right?
Yeah.
To ask for help, to realize you can't do it all on your own. That hyper independence is a trauma response, right? Yeah. It's a trauma. I got this. I can do it. I don't need you. I don't need anybody. That's a trauma response because somebody obviously wasn't there for you, right? Obviously. So now you're like, well, fuck you. I'm not asking for help for anything. So then when you feel it, you could actually look within or look without and be worthy of help, be worthy of love, regardless of whether or not you do everything perfectly. What is the phrase? Not about failure. I either win or I learn. Right. There's no losing, right? It's what you choose to do. So the same thing in your spiritual practice, right? If you try a spell or you try an incantation or you go to a ritual and it doesn't work for you, okay, try again.
Yeah. There's this really beautiful Neil deGrasse Tyson quote that's, I treasure the days I fail because it means it was a day I learned something.
Wow.
And I think that's it, right? Like
that's it.
This whole journey is just one long practice of learning more about ourselves and what's around us. And the more we learn, the more connected we feel. And I think that's true. The more we were talking about mental health, the more stories we can tell, the more connected all of us are. And that's the whole, like, that's it. Like, that's why I wake up in the morning. That's why we're all here, as far as I'm concerned, is to find those connections and learn more about what's around us. And we're only here for
and you never know where those connections are going to lead. I mean, bringing the conversation full circle, I met a girl in a park 14 years ago at a Pagan Pride Day, and here we are. Right. I mean, we had like a 10-minute conversation and here we are. And that moment has been ever present for me. It's been ever present for you. For me, that was an affirmation of I am on the right path because I've met somebody who I resonate with. And for you, it was a moment of, wow, this is the path I want to be on. So you, like, getting back to your point about the connectivity and that's all everything is about, being loved, being worthy, being light. I think you as a person, as an author, as a mother, I think you just completely embody that statement. And I am ridiculously grateful to know you. Like, really, I'm so grateful that you decided to come and chat with me. You're amazing. So, first things first, or second to last, tell everyone where they can find you online and where they can buy your book if they want to really read a fucking great book about your journey. I mean, really, it's not like your traditional, like, pagan-y book. It's just so good. It's a narrative. It's just wonderful. So tell everybody where they can find you.
All right. They can find me at mistybellstiers.com or mistybell.com. They connect to each other. And my book is Witch Please, Finding Magic in Modern Times.
You got to say it like this. Witch Please.
Witch Please.
Please.
Always.
It's excellent. It's an excellent book. And we'll put all the notes, all your links will be on the show notes so people will be able to click and find you. So
Awesome.
everybody look there. Okay. So last question. I asked this to
That
everyone.
kind of makes me sad.
I know. Last question. I asked this to everyone. If you were to have me make you a meal in my kitchen witchy way, what meal would it be and why?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I don't even know what you like to eat.
I mean, I'll eat just about anything. I mean, I love the risottos. I love a nice risotto with vegetables in it, butternut squash.
Is that something you would make for yourself?
Probably.
What about something you would never make for yourself that would be like, your favorite thing or something really, really special? So basically, I'm going to come up with a recipe inspired by this conversation, and then I will post it on your episode. Yeah.
Because my answer was going to be, honestly, like, I would just love a nice cup of tea and you across the table for another hour to like talk about all the things, but that doesn't count because it's not a recipe.
It's not. I mean, I could come up with a tea recipe for you, but it's not that fun. I mean,
it doesn't sound very fun.
I could do it.
Okay. I would say that I never make myself something decadent. Like that's the kind of thing that I always make for other people. Like something that just feels unnecessary. And like,
all acts of joy and pleasure are my ritual.
And so I think, that would be something that I like, something chocolatey and dark. Something dark. Yeah.
Like a Black Forest cake?
Yes, like a Black Forest cake. Yeah, absolutely.
With ooey gooey dark cherries and fresh with whipped cream, and maybe that whipped cream is like infused with amaretto.
Yeah, that would be great. That sounds delicious.
No one's asked me for a cake in a while.
That sounds wonderful. That's something I'd never make myself. It's like, it's a gift. Like things like that for me always feel like a gift. Like you don't need it to survive. I'm just going to spend a ridiculous amount of time. I mean,
I don't know about you, but I need cake to survive. I also need mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, and potato chips. So,
well, yes, to all of those things.
And
a nice bottle of champagne.
Red wine.
Always. Red wine. That's fair. I'm a bubbly person.
I love bubbles. Do you have a soda stream?
So don't even get me started. No, I don't.
It's
and
the best thing
so
ever.
Badly,
it's the best thing ever.
There's no room.
It's this size. It's like, it's just.
If I could show you my kitchen, it would make
it's tall and skinny, and it doesn't plug in. It doesn't plug in. It has
I'm listening now.
Right. Okay. So it has a cartridge that goes in it. And so it doesn't need to be plugged into something. So you could put it in your bedroom. You could put it in your bathroom. You could put it anywhere. You could take it with you. So like it doesn't need electricity. You just put the bottle in and hit the button, and it's like it's a gas. I don't know. I don't even know. It's
science things.
It's a science things. Yeah, it's a science thing. It's like it's a gas container. So when you hit the button, it releases the gas. So it doesn't need any electricity. It's like the best $79 I've ever spent in my life. I have unlimited bubbles. Unlimited bubbles. I have bubbles forever.
What is your favorite drink out of Soda Stream? By the way, should totally sponsor this episode.
Soda Stream, please sponsor me. I try to get. Do you know Sock Dreams? Are you familiar with? Oh, okay. Well, first we'll talk about Soda Stream. Right. I am the most boring person. I like plain seltzer with a lemon wedge. Like we'll go out to dinner somewhere, and all of our friends are like, "I have a margarita. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get that." I'm like, "Can I please have a seltzer with 2 lemons?" You know what? I'm feeling crazy. Can I have a seltzer
3 lemons.
with 1 lemon and 1 lime? Oh, I'm feeling fancy. I want a pink one. Can I have a seltzer with a lemon and a splash of cranberry? Like that's
I love this about you.
That
I would be that person though, for sure.
I am that person 100%. And I'll always be like, oh, I really want to have a glass of wine. I really want to have this. I'm like, nah, I'd rather spend my calories on mashed potatoes. Like that's it.
Right.
That's the true story. So sock dreams.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Okay, as whatever. This is all going to be on the YouTube channel and everybody's going to be like, this girl's fucking crazy. Okay. Sock dreams. Look them up. They are a small business out of Portland, Oregon, and they do nothing but amazing socks. Thigh-high stripy socks, knee-high stripy socks, all the socks in the world. Okay, maybe you don't know this about me, but I'm always wearing stripy socks. If I was limber enough, I would show you my socks right now, but I don't think
I'll take the word for it.
And then get my foot up sockdreams.com. I wrote to them and I was like, I talk about your socks all the time. I post pictures of myself. I'm the kitchen witch. I'm in your socks. I want to be a spokesperson for your company. And they didn't respond.
Oh, good of them.
You hear me? Sock dreams. Sock dreams. I was like,
Sock dreams is missing out on a huge
I think so.
Potential audience.
Right. I was like, I'm out here on the East Coast and all the witches want your socks. Wherever I go, people are like, where'd you get those socks? And I tell them sock dreams. When Justin and I went out to Portland, because I always wanted to go to Portland because I'm that girl.
Sure.
And I left a piece of my heart there. I love Portland so much. We went out to Portland. I didn't know Sock Dreams was based in Portland.
You didn't know before you went?
I didn't know. Like I've been ordering from them for years. I had no idea they were in Portland, Oregon, right by where we were staying. And a friend texted me. She's like, "Are you going to go to Sock Dreams while you're out there?" And I was like, "Wait, what? What do you? They have a store? What do you? Oh my god!" And I literally like went there. We were in a sock store the size of my kitchen for like an hour and a half. I want to say I spent like $200 in socks.
But to be fair,
best day of my life.
It's hard to find a good pair of socks, like the right kind of socks. Like there's a brewery, ironically, in Stowe, Vermont, that makes socks that I love. And so like I have 4 pairs. My husband gets them for me for Christmas every year.
Yes.
He like one time he called the brewery because it wasn't on their line. We're like, "Do you have socks still?" Because my wife really likes your socks. It's a big deal because they have to be just the right thickness and fit you just right.
Yes. And I've got like ginormous calves, and they make large calf over the knee.
Shut up!
Large, like big girl, thigh high, stripy witchy socks.
I'm going to be spending way too much money on socks.
Okay. They are amazing. They're amazing. And they what I'm going to say is if you have the choice between like, sometimes they have like a black and white stripy sock and it's $9. Right. And then you're like, well, what's the difference between the $9 sock and the $15 sock? Buy the $15 sock because they're stretchier. They just seem to last longer. They don't get holes in the bottom. Yeah. One year, Justin literally got me a backpack because I needed a new backpack. It was my birthday. I got a backpack and filled it with socks from Sock Dreams. Like the whole backpack, socks from Sock Dreams.
That's love. That's love.
That is true love. Okay. That is true love. Okay. I love you. This is amazing. I love
you.
I do apologize for my diatribe about Sock Dreams.
No, I'm really excited about the diatribe.
It's amazing.
We're gonna end this and I'm gonna go immediately to the Sock Dreams.
I apologize in advance. Please tell your husband I'm sorry for the amount of money that you're going to spend on Sock Dreams. They have socks for every season. They have Hogwarts house socks. They've also got like tights and fishnets and like sexy shit too. Like, and also everything they do is all inclusion. So like when you're shopping on their site, they have all size people, all body typed people, all gendered type people. So you're just like, man, I fucking love Sock Dreams, like just like these are my peeps. This is where I belong.
That's where everyone should be. All things should look like that.
And finally, we're starting to see it a little bit. And I'll always, vote with my money. Like I will always patron a company if they have the same item over here and everybody is, a size 2, and then the same product over here and it's showing inclusive bodies, I will always shop with the other one on principle alone, Okay. You're wonderful. This has been super duper fun. I'm going to come up with a Black Forest cake recipe for you. And
I'm so excited.
I'm going to post it. And so you can make it if you want to.
I'll make it and then I'll take a picture and send it to you. So
or you could Zoom me and we could eat it together.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And then we could videotape that. We could record that and
just we could post it and talk about socks.
Two bitches in their socks eating chocolate cake. I'm just saying. Misty Belle Stiers, I am so grateful that you decided to spend some time with me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that I happened to bump into you in a park a million years ago. I'm so happy for all of your success and your book and your life. And it's just wonderful to connect with another kindred spirit. I adore you. And until next time, my friends, I wish you many, many blessings and so much gratitude. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.